"She's a little overwhelmed by the enormity of my gesture," I said. As these words left my mouth, the crowds cheered and the helicopters flashed their spotlights like a disabled disco. The reporter cycled away, pumping his fist and yelling, "What a scoop!" The trip home took just under 2 days. I was happy to arrive. We all needed to utilize the toilet, and the mailman needed coaxing out of the roof guttering. I was terribly sore. My arm muscles were starting to entropy and drizzle through the pores of my skin. I was counting on the existence of some soothing balm in the medicine cabinet. I kicked wildly at the front door, splintering it apart. I had to use my wife's legs to free up enough space for us to get inside. The cat cottoned onto our arrival instantly and leapt towards my legs. I felt its claws hook into me and scrape away small strips of flesh. I hollered toward the ceiling, nearly falling down. I had to shake my leg ferociously before the cat flew off in a furry blur and collided in a distressing smear against the wall. "You bastard," said my wife. "I think you've killed the cat." "What would you have me do, my dear? It latched onto my leg." "You could have put me and this strange child down and removed the cat with your hands." I laughed sprays of saliva into her face. "Not a chance. We both know I'm not putting you down. What kind of man would that make me? Now, who needs to use the toilet?" The child raised his hand. I made my way into the bathroom. The immediate dilemma was a logistical one. How was I to angle my wife's body in such a way as to avoid becoming drenched in her urine? I had no answer. I just angled her body downward and asked her to lift her hospital gown. Her initial refusal was usurped by her plump bladder. I closed my eyes and hoped for the best. I would have crossed my fingers also, but they weren't moving anymore. Not a drop of urine landed in the toilet. Instead, it wept from my arm and soaked into all three of us. We participated in a combined, slightly disgusted wince. It was the child's turn next. He was a trooper. He grasped his equipment and took aim. It all went in the bowl. I was rather relieved. It's one thing to have your wife's urine coating your body, but quite another if it originates from a random child. It was my turn next. I wished that my grasp of hindsight had prompted me to ask an individual from the crowd to lend assistance. As it was, the three of us were alone. Without a zipper assistance, I wet myself embarrassingly. "Quite unpleasant, this," I said. Ashamed yet relieved, we emerged from our house. The crowd had grown tenfold, and as we emerged, a deafening roar lured blood from everyone's eardrums. Thousands of people collapsed to the ground in pain, drowned by their own powers of evotion. The tinnitus whistled in my ears like an overeager shepherd. The only benefit, as far as I could ascertain, was that the gutter-dwelling mailman fell from the roof, impaling himself on a passing bowl as he landed. Traversing the writhing bodies as I limped away wasn't easy, but I persevered. As the days stretched by, my wife grew despondent and the child grew gaunt. These were hard, ethically confronting times. My arms were now nothing more than skin-wrapped bone. They had solidified into place. The ghost of the vole-felled mailman sat on my shoulders, adding an esoteric weight that was more taxing on my mind than my body. He spent most of his time mimicking my voice and yelling sexually suggestive insults at people. I was slapped by numerous offended ladies and the occasional beat poet. I shrugged this off as unavoidable. Crowds continued to gather and follow, and the media never lost interest. A telegram, delivered by a ball of meerkats, kindly informed me that I'd been nominated for a civically minded award. The reason for my nomination was ambiguous, but I gladly accepted on behalf of my wife. "Look, dear," I said, "we're really making a difference." She managed a half-smile, which I wasn't expecting, and coughed a spray of black vomit into my face. "Thank you, love," she said quietly. "How are you doing, sport?" I said to the child, just in time to catch a centipede scurry from his left nostril. "I think he needs a hospital," said my wife. "Has that thing always been inside your face?" I asked the child. Rather than provide an adequate response, his eyeballs merely rolled backward. "I think it's a new arrival," coughed my wife. "How rude! I didn't allow it on board. Filthy little stowaway." "Please, dear, take us to the hospital." "It's hundreds of meters away. It'll take hours to get there, encumbered as I am." "Will it?" interjected a synchronous duo of lumberjacks from a nearby crowd. Without thought, they approached me in tandem stride and lifted the three of us aloft. My legs purred with relief. "Who are you, kind gentlemen?" I asked. "All we've ever been a lumberjack, sir," they both said as they marched us to the hospital. Although I didn't know where I had intended to go with my wife, it felt shameful to have arrived at the beginning again. I had hoped for some forward momentum. "Life is cyclical," said the child before a team of concerned-looking doctors retrieved him. The lumberjacks put me down gently. However, the brief break afforded to my legs had made them lazy, and I collapsed instantly. My wife rolled out of my arms and bounced along the corridor like a beach ball. War paint-smeared doctors chased after her with butterfly nets and spear-length scalpels. My rigid arms jutted upwards, unable to move. They looked like beef jerky and made cooing sounds. A short while later, the doctors returned with my wife safely captured. Her wide eyes stared at me in horror through the butterfly net. "Are you proud of me?" I yelled. "Not really," she called back before disappearing into the bowels of the hospital. "Ungrateful bitch!" I screamed, hoping she could hear me. Some children dressed in hospital scrubs circled me. "How are you, sir?" asked one. "I'm not sure," I said. "I guess I'm a little confused." "Confused about what?" asked another. "The whole shebang, really. I really do love my wife, don't get me wrong. It's just that sometimes it can all be rather precarious. I think I'm in trouble." "Sounds like a pickle," admitted one of the child doctors. "What would you suggest in a situation like this?" They began to laugh. "Don't ask us, sir, we're barely doctors. Sounds to me like you're going to be in the doghouse for a little while." "Bloody typical," I exclaimed as the doctors dragged me toward intensive care. "Has all this been for nothing?" The doctors began laughing again. One of them said probably, and the others agreed. The end. If you have liked this story, please consider buying my book, A Million Versions of Right. If you didn't like this story, please consider buying my book, A Million Versions of Right. Thank you. I have been Matthew Revert.